Hello, my name is Koen Veldman from Organization Builders, and in this video I'll give you a step-by-step introduction to the tactical meeting. We use a lot of different meeting practices. The tactical meeting is one of them. I always enjoy that you see all those different meeting style approaches emerging. And this is a very specific one. There's a meeting card available for it, or you might have one even. Um, it's a process guided by a facilitator, so you've elected someone in your team to facilitate this meeting style. It starts and ends with a checkout. It's about gathering the information, how you perform as a team, and then in a dynamic way solve each of the agenda items. I'll go through it step by step. I'll give some more detail to the facilitator role as well at the end. First, a bit of basics. So this is all about our circle way of working, which means you are a team with very clear accountabilities. Everybody fills at least one or multiple roles in the circle. And it's all around purpose. So you know what you're going to achieve as a purpose, and you have everybody together that can support or help with achieving that goal. And you're going to have a tactical meeting. The tactical meeting is really about creating alignment between each of the roles so you can continue working again. The tactical meeting is also something you most of the time do on a relatively frequent basis, mostly weekly, but some do it every other week, some do it daily. You can tweak that, of course. So here are the basic steps. It starts with a check-in. Hey, we are humans, we have emotions, we're working together as a team, we're not robots sitting around the meeting table. So it's really about creating human teamwork, and that starts with a check-in round. Because if we're all physically and mentally present, if we all know a bit about how we feel and how we're doing, we can be much more effective in listening and working together. So it's a quick round, typically one by one. Don't make it a psychology session where you dive into people's issues or stuff like that, but allow everybody to make a quick statement of how they're doing, of how they're feeling, or if there's something distracting them. But they're typically short stories, short comments, and that creates a first round. Everybody has shared in it. It's a big benefit of a check-in round that everybody has talked within the first 1 or 2 minutes of the meeting. Step 2, 3, and 4, as you see on the right, are there to collect information. So this meeting type doesn't start with a fixed agenda and you immediately dive into the first decision or first content piece, but you first say, let's together understand how we are performing as a team. And there are 3 different ways to do that. Item number 2, the checklist, are a couple of statements which a role or everybody can answer with a quick yes or no, and that really helps you to get on the same page, to get in the frame of what the circle is about. So they're quick yes or no statements, like do we have new ideas to innovate our products if you're a product innovation team, or do we have new market information about upcoming events, like for the same team. Are we on track with changes X, Y, and Z, or whatever it is that you like to every now and then have a check about. They're not good or bad. They're just a yes or no, and they drive putting stuff on the agenda. Like, oh yeah, that's right. I had some market information. Let me put it on the agenda so I can share it. So the checklists are very simple. Of course, like any of the steps, you can skip them, but most circles have like a couple of those yes/no statements, maybe 3, maybe 8, maybe 10, something like that. But to really say like, okay, if it's a simple trigger, not more than that, that helps you to say like, okay, if I have something relevant, I'll add it to the agenda. Item number 3, metrics review, is looking at some data, looking at some indicators. Things we like to measure. How are our sales going? How is our website traffic going? How many subscribers do we have? How many emails are in our inbox or whatever it is you like to measure, right? But good data provides a lot of insights on our progress, on our performance. Again, these are not targets, these are not per se KPIs, but you allow everybody that owns a metric to give a short explanation, to really give some insight about the numbers you see. Item number 4, project updates. That's a round again where everybody gets a turn to share the progress they've made and to give a quick update on the projects, on the work you have. So most circles have like a Kanban board or a project board where all the projects are listed transparently, so you can see where everybody is working on in each of their roles, and you just get a quick update. Again, we like to stimulate here that you take ownership over your own work, so you don't need to explain if things didn't happen. That's your own accountability to prioritize. So please really update about the stuff that's relevant for the circle. Most of the time, that are the things that are new or the things that have seen a lot of change or the things that have been completed. So they are really short updates. So after step 4, you're most of the time 10 to 15 minutes in your meeting, maybe 20, depends a bit on the scope of your work. Then here it says at item 5 to build an agenda. So the idea is not to send agendas out up front with whatever it gets right, but to just say, well, if we all come prepared, if we all make a list of the things we like to address in the meeting, or if we listen closely to step 2, 3, and 4, where we collect all that information, we can build an agenda. And maybe we have 5, 10, or sometimes 20 items on the agenda. And it takes us 1 or 2 minutes for everybody to contribute to build an agenda. And again, here, right, this is pretty special. It doesn't say like the manager builds the agenda, but we all do. In this methodology, we say we all take accountability of the work we do. So if we come to a meeting, we all have stuff to discuss, right? So we can all add our own agenda items. So now comes step 6. We're going to process those agenda items. And here the idea is progress over perfection. If you want to decide something or make something complete, then addressing 2 or 3 items in an hour is pretty special, right? Because it takes a lot of discussion and a lot of fine-tuning before you have a perfect answer. What we say in a tactical meeting is that we prefer progress over perfection. And that means that with every agenda item, the facilitator asks, what do you need? What's the next step? Can you please clarify the action or the project that someone needs to take up? So your agenda item is solved 1 step forward. And in that way, you can triage or deal with a lot of different items within quite a short amount of time. That requires from each of the participants some skill in articulating what they need. So more on that a little later. Well, if all agenda items are then processed, you get to the final step, that's the checkout. It's kind of like to check in, but with a slightly different focus. Here we say we like teams to continue learning and to continue to provide feedback on how our own meetings can be better. We share the responsibility as a team to say we can improve our meetings. We can be happy with how we meet as a team. So at the checkout, you make a quick round again. Most of the time it lasts a minute, 2, 3 minutes, something like that, where everybody can make a short statement to say how they leave the meeting or if they have an idea how to improve the meeting for the next time. That's it. That's what the tactical meeting is about. Now a bit more detail about some of the steps. The first is our menu of what you can do if you have an agenda item. So if it is your turn, if it's your agenda point, then the facilitator asks, hey, what do you need? And here are a couple of options you can use. You can combine them as well, but they're quite different in nature. So it really helps to prepare that a bit and say, what do I actually need? And the first one is request the next action. That's a very simple single action, like send me an email, please send me that document. Can you call that person? Can you write this down or whatever it is, right? It's a simple thing that's easily completable. The second thing is request a project. And with the project, we ask for an outcome, a result, or a goal. You can do that really fast. You can ask for very big things in just a single sentence. And then you ask it to the role that's accountable. And you say, well, good luck. Good luck achieving that goal. And it's really up to that role to come up with all the actions needed to complete that project, right? So you don't need to micromanage it. And that project is on the project board, so you get updates about how that role, that person is progressing to complete the project. So if you're clear about the outcome you expect, you can let it go. You can hopefully trust your colleague to deliver on that. You can trust them to have issues about getting it to a good result, but that's up to them to put that on the agenda then. The third thing is to request info or help. There are no right actions or projects coming out, but it is just to, if someone can share some data, some opinions, some ideas, sometimes it is some brainstorming. The fourth item is sharing information. And this is really about just updating on something you could have said maybe in the project updates, but like to elaborate a bit more or to show something. And finally, that has a really different dynamic, of which we'll record a different video that's about decision making. And the first four items are really, well, relatively quick things you can ask to a single role, or you can just say like, hey, does it fit your role? Okay, get it done. And that's really smooth, fast interaction within the team. Where making a decision where we collectively agree to requires a different dynamics. So I like to point that out that has a different process, which comes in one of the next videos. But it's good to know, like, hey, am I just asking some work, or am I asking for a decision that I need everybody's opinion or consent with? So how does processing an agenda item work? I explained it a minute ago, 2 minutes ago, briefly. Let's slow down and talk you through the dynamics of an agenda item. So most of the time, the facilitator starts with, okay, we get to point number 3. It's called a supply chain or whatever it's called. And it's from you, what do you need? And then a short interaction happens, and that person says like, well, I need an action, I need a project, I'd like to share something. Oh, please, can I have 5 minutes of brainstorming time? The secretary captures everything that comes out of it, and then the facilitator asks, did you get what you need? And it's really up to the owner of the agenda item to say, yes, that's all. I defined the step forward. My agenda item is solved. And we do one tension at a time. And sometimes there are related tensions, but that's really what the facilitator does, one item at a time. And that really creates that ownership, that clarity of who we're helping. Another good thing to ask yourself is, do I really care about it from one of my roles? I love that people always like to help each other. I don't want that to stop, but I like you to think if that help is requested, if it is a concern of an accountability you have, or if you're just talking from an opinion you have, something that personally concerns you, or whatever it is, right? But be really clear about from what source, what energy you're trying to drive a point. That can clarify a lot of the discussions you have as a team. So what actually are agenda points? Here are a couple of examples. Sometimes they're called tensions, and it's really about the gap that's being created, or a spark. Sometimes it's called just simply agenda items or agenda points. And with these pictures, I like to create some of the differences between it. So sometimes here on the top left, it's like a spark, it's an innovation, it's something new, and that can be an agenda item. At the same time, here on the right, it can also be some friction, some resistance, something that doesn't go right, an issue, same thing, can also be an agenda item. But what I do like with all the agenda items, that instead of ignoring them or disregarding them, it's really about seeing that each of those issues, tensions, sparks, is fuel, as you see here in the bottom right, for change. So if you take agenda items one by one and just say, okay, what are the facts, what's happening, what's the current situation, and what's one step forward, then you really learn as a team to improve and take everything that happens and work with it. That's the idea about the tactical meeting. Take one tension at a time and define one improvement, one step forward for every tension there is. So why a facilitator? It really helps when you're in it as a team. You each have your roles, your accountabilities. To have one person in that team who also has normal work roles, right? To be the facilitator, to create kind of a safe environment for everybody to participate and to guide the team and having a really effective meeting and getting through the whole agenda. So the lead is not accountable for dividing the time. That's really up to the facilitator to make sure all agenda items are processed. So a good facilitator actually is more like a referee. It's not like a judge who decides what's good or best. It just says, well, I'll help you follow this process, but do with the time as you like, right? So a facilitator should feel the power to intervene and to lead the meeting. I hope you as a team are there together to win, so it doesn't feel like, well, like a sports game where you try to compete or referee two opposing teams. But it really feels like I have strong team members working together and trying to get the most out of the meeting, right? So as a facilitator, you give clear instructions, and really work with the energy in the room and make sure everybody gets what they need. That's it, a very short introduction to the tactical meeting. There's much more to say about how to get those dynamics right, about how to train yourself as facilitator, about diverse agenda items. But I hope this gives you a good overview of what typically consists in a tactical meeting.